All right, can everyone see my screen okay? Just give me a thumbs up if yes. All right, awesome. All right, so I think I'm going to go ahead and get started because we do have quite a bit of content and a couple of activities today. So I guess first off, for those I haven't met, my name is Zeke Artiaga. I'm with the Career Center and support the Master of Marketing program. We have several of our team members here. So a couple of our graduate assistants, the coach for the Masters of Finance program. So that's Wakath Hyder, Meryl Bowman, and Ginny Ling. So if you all can wave so people can kind of see you all that you're here. Um, but I guess to get us started, kind of our icebreaker for today, I want you to think, I'm going with a theme here, the one word theme. We did this on Monday in a different way, but what word comes to mind when you think of the words cover letter? So drop your word in the chat and let me know what you think when you hear the word cover letter. Oh, I hear a laugh. That's great. I have thoughts too, so don't worry.
Like,
Oh, you are introduction, concise, organized, story, unique, glimpse, compelling, personalized. All
I don't
really good
know.
words. So I'm seeing a very positive association with cover letters. When I've done this exercise before, I feel like I get a mixed bag sometimes of like dated,
Law.
hate, womp, no, Maggie, unnecessary.
Uh,
So yeah,
law.
I knew I would have some rebels in here. Well, thanks for sharing your words. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons to that you can leverage a cover letter. There's a lot of reasons why it may feel a little bit tedious. And our hope today is that we're going to give you some insights, some structure, some frameworks to help you really feel confident about creating a cover letter and at least getting that started over the summer so you're ready to have one once you get here in the fall. All right. So we've showed this pyramid of the internship and job search. And so what I'm going to be covering today are cover letters, of course, and then we'll touch a little bit on LinkedIn profile as well. And so excited to talk about this. So first, we're going to talk about why cover letters, give you a couple of structures that you can use. Think of it as cover letter 101. You don't necessarily have to use these structures. If you feel pretty creative, you're a strong writer, you can kind of do things a little bit differently. But we will give you a couple of frameworks that hopefully will be helpful. We'll talk a little bit about AI assisted writing and some of the tools that you can use there and how that can really upskill your cover letter, if you will. Not necessarily do it for you, but help you make what you create better. We'll have a couple of activities and then we'll talk about LinkedIn and we'll close out the session. So either in the chat or you can come off mute. What percentage of hiring managers do you all think read cover letters? Any guesses? From 0 to 100%, how many of them you think read cover letters? 20%. 20% from Haley. 35 says Anna. 40. We keep going up. It feels like an auction. 30, 30. Elena says 100, feeling 10, 50. All right, I'm going to give you the answer, at least according to one survey. So 83% of hiring managers indicated that they always read cover letters or they read them most of the time. And then with recruiters, 78% of recruiters, according to a different survey that we populated. All that said, that they're important. They are being read. I can speak to my experience as a previous campus recruiter. If a student submitted a cover letter for an internship or a full-time role, I read it. It told me a little bit about them, maybe gave me some insights that I didn't get from their resume. It could be talking points if I was discussing the candidate with a hiring manager. And hiring managers, if you think about them, they're super interested, right? They're going to be hiring you. You're going to be on their team. You're going to be reporting to them. They want to know everything about you. So if they can get other data points on you to make sure you're the best fit, they're really going to want that information. So people are reading cover letters. I would say though, like if I think about my full life cycle recruiting, what that means is not campus. So I'm just like posting a job for a hiring manager. I worked with that hiring manager, and if they tell me, hey, I don't want a cover letter or it's optional, I would still read them. But I would have some colleagues who kind of agreed with the hiring manager and said, I'm not going to require them. If they submit, maybe I'll read it, maybe I won't. It just kind of depends on the workload and volume of the recruiter. But I think for where you all are at as students, it's going to be super important to be writing a cover letter, regardless of what program you're in. So where do cover letters make a difference? If a hiring team is on the fence about you, that cover letter may have information that could be helpful to decide to move you forward in the process. It's also a great way if any of you have some work experience and maybe it hasn't aligned with what you want to do next. It could be a great way to explain that why. Why am I making this pivot? I saw this a lot with, in particular, MBA students who had been working 5, 6 years and then they came back to school. But if you think about it, at any point in your career where you're making some type of transition, to be able to have the opportunity to explain that even before the interview is definitely an advantage. Any jobs that require strong communication skills, writing skills. So here we put examples of equity research analysts, marketing managers, um, hiring managers, hiring teams are going to be looking at your cover letter. They're going to want to see that you can be concise, that you can create a pitch for yourself, get a sense of your brand value. So these skills are definitely important to highlight, especially for particular roles. For optional, our advice is don't be tricked. Like if it's optional, go ahead and submit it for the reasons previously stated. It could really make or break you in the hiring process. Also, cover letters, as you do research and especially coming to Vanderbilt, you're going to be meeting with a lot of alumni. So whether that's networking calls that you're initiating, maybe it's alumni that are coming here to speak in your class or for sessions that we put on or a student club. You're going to learn about a lot of different companies. And so to be able to incorporate that connection, not a name dropping, it's not to brag, but to incorporate like your genuine interest that you talked to this person, that you learned about the company, it's really powerful to put into a cover letter. We won't cover this in this session, but cover emails are also a thing that a lot of folks are doing. So you may be required to send your application via email. They may say, we only want a resume. You can put a small, concise blurb of a cover letter in an email. It'll be shorter than your traditional cover letter, but it's something that we also encourage. And so as you get to this point in your process, definitely work with your coach to figure out like, is this the right way? Am I approaching my cover letter the right way for this position? So I wanted to share this. This is from a while back. So this is when I was still living in Silicon Valley. I was thinking of leaving tech. So this was probably 2008, nine, right around there. And probably like many of you on this call, I liked video games when I was young. And in my day, it was still like Nintendo, Super Nintendo, PlayStation had just come out. All of that said, I applied to this job at Nintendo, and they were very kind that they reached out to me with this email. You'll see in the red box what they wanted from me. They wanted a cover letter highlighting specific content, which in this case was why I wanted the position, and to highlight why I was interested in Nintendo and the gaming industry in general. I will say right now it's so competitive. So unless you have a stellar resume, this could have like stopped the interview process for me. They could have been like, this guy didn't submit a cover letter, we're just moving on. But in this case, I feel very flattered. They liked what they saw. They wanted to get a little bit more, but this was a missed opportunity for me. I was able to submit my cover letter. I decided I did not want to move to Seattle. I ended up moving back to Chicago from San Francisco. So this role didn't work out, but I just remember being super excited about it. So let's talk about the structure of a cover letter. If we think about it in terms of dating, it's the I like you like me, let's get together. And so to like break that down a little bit more, your introduction should show why you're interested in the company. So like for Nintendo, I should be writing why Nintendo, why that position? Have I done any research on that? Have I actually talked to anyone from the company? Really showing your genuine interest in that you've done your research. The you like me. This could be your sales pitch, your brand value proposition. So this is explaining what unique skills, what attributes you're bringing to the table, and how those align to the job. So specific skills or requirements of the job. And you can even start to think about like culture fit for the company. So if you have met people, if you've gotten some insight from culture, how have you demonstrated that in some of your experiences? And then the let's get together is the closing. So this is where, first and foremost, you're still expressing interest. You're showing gratitude for the opportunity in front of you and asking them to reach out, whether it be for a phone interview, a real interview, just something to, a call to action, if you will, to get in touch with you because you're interested. So I want to pause there for a second. One, to let the career team jump in if they have any other thoughts. And then two, if you'll have any questions, you can either put them in the chat or come off mute, just on this basic structure or anything that I've touched on so far. Team, do you all have anything?
No, I think the as much as cover letter is kind of specific to the circumstances, I see it being widely applicable to tell me about yourself, right? An elevator pitch and your cover email in your outreach. So in all kind of formats, I feel that's a core part where you can make it a bigger pitch or a more concise pitch. But I think it is a vital type of work that you need to do. So it's kind of what is your best shot at pitching yourself. So, I would invite all students to do that work regardless of whether a cover letter is needed or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Jenny. I think that's great perspective. Anybody have questions so far? All right. So we're going to show you a couple of ways that you can organize like the pitch in your cover letter. So one way is to organize by core competencies or skills. So you can read through a job description and decipher what are the top 3 or 4 skills that this job is wanting. If you're not sure, if you feel overwhelmed, use AI. Ask AI, what are the top 3 skills that this job description wants? And that could be kind of a way for you to figure that piece out if you're just not sure, you feel overwhelmed with how many skills they're asking for. That might be a great way to do it. So what we see here is this particular Owen student. They picked 3 skills: leadership, problem solving, and initiative. And those were 3 skills that they got from the job description. And then for each of those skills, they created evidence or demonstrated how they are meeting those skills. And so it's very easy for the reader to say, okay, I'm seeing in the first paragraph that this person has strong interest in the company. They've highlighted like some skills that they need for this particular position and how they've done that. And they're closing with gratitude, and in this case, like their phone number to further discuss qualifications. So we're seeing that basic structure of I like you like me. In this case, here are my skills that I'm bringing and how, and then that closing. So that's one way. The other way that I'm going to show you is by experience. So similar in some sense. So the way to think about this particular kind of structure or pitch for your cover letter is if you've had significant internship experience, if you're coming into your master's program, maybe with a year or 2 of work experience, that's going to be super relevant to what you want to do next. You may have experiences that touch on a lot of things that the job requirement or the job description wants. And so you're able to craft a letter highlighting those experiences that are going to be multifaceted, that are going to show just a lot of details on how you could be a value add to the position. So in this example, so I know it probably is a little bit hard to read, but in this example, this particular Owen student had internships with a foreign exchange department of a company, and they talked about operational experience. And so in that experience, they talk about the ability to lead a team, the ability to do an audit and actually reconcile and get a lot of money, over $100,000 for the company. And so within that experience, they're showing a lot of problem solving, leadership. So instead of making it by skill, they've described this experience, and it's tying back to the particular job. One thing to note though is you don't want to just regurgitate bullets from your resume. You actually want to like add a little bit of the why, add a little bit of the story, add a little bit of like why you took the initiative to do something, or what was the opportunity that you saw to help the organization or your team. The cover letter is the place to do that. Team, do you all have any thoughts on either the first structure, so the pitch by skill, or creating your cover letter pitch by experience? Yeah. All right. Any questions from our students?
Yeah, can I ask a question real quick?
Yeah.
I assume this is an example email here, but would you be putting, you start each of these bullets with in operations as a trading intern and my various roles in companies X. Would you be listing the actual company names that you worked for here, or would you just be saying your role?
Yeah, you can list the actual company names. Unless for some reason it's confidential, which I don't think that would be the case. That may be the case if you're talking about a client and maybe you're under an NDA, so non-disclosure agreement, but otherwise, these are just kind of like templates for you to use. And all of this information will be in 1220, honestly, with a lot more examples as well. So you can kind of read through a lot of different examples.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Nikosi, so is there a standard length of the cover letter? I guess it depends how you organize it, but when is a cover letter too long or too short? So in my mind and thinking about my previous recruiting experience, I think you can kind of follow the same guideline as a resume, like no more than 1 page in an MS Word document. So, and I would also be submitting these as a PDF, but I would try to keep it at 1 page. And I think with this structure, you'll easily be able to do that. Because again, you don't want to highlight everything that you've done or match your skill set to every single qualification or requirement. You want to be strategic and be able to say, this is what I've gathered as the most important skills or experiences that align with the job. Let me like make my pitch. Let me tell you my value based on kind of that analysis that I've done around the job description. So CC asks, would you recommend to organize by skill or experience, or does that just depend more on the job description? I think one, it'll depend on the job description. And so if, for example, you are a master's student in data science and you know the role has a lot of technical skill requirements, and that's like very apparent that they are wanting that skill set, it might serve you better to really call out the specific skills in your cover letter and use that skill cover letter structure for yourself. For someone, again, who maybe has had a little bit more work experience or some really strong, broad yet deep experiences in their internship, you could do this experience. If you've managed a big project or a new innovative kind of product launch in an internship, like you might want to organize it like this by experience. So definitely work with your coach if you're not sure, but you could honestly create templates with both structures and kind of tweak as needed for the different jobs that you're looking at. But yeah, no problem. I hope that's helpful. Anything else? All right. So hopefully this is obvious. How important is it to tailor your cover letter? Very important. To most hiring managers, it's at least slightly important, but for the majority, it's either important, fairly important, or very important. So you do want to not just create a cookie cutter template, but really think through what is this company actually looking for? What research can I do on the company? Whether that's, online through their LinkedIn page, you will have access to a lot of business journals and databases here at Vanderbilt, and our business librarians can definitely help you with some of this research. Have you talked to alumni? So you'll want to incorporate and talk about those things in your cover letter and really tailor it. It makes the hiring manager, hiring team feel good and confident that you're a strong candidate for the role in the company. Team, anything to add here?
I think with the proliferation of AI generated cover letters, you will still want to use that maybe as a base, but also have your personal style or flavor to it, because it's clearly there's convergence of the words that AI tools get, which we'll get to. But it's definitely vital that you actually have your own take on it, especially for the final version.
Yeah, absolutely. And is that the next slide? Yes. So we're going to talk a little bit about AI. So some things to be aware of. The prompt that you write, if you want to use AI to help get you started, or if you're having just writer's block, or you're looking at some of our examples and you're just feeling a little stuck, it's completely fine to use AI and get started. But the prompt is important. You just don't want to say, I'm applying to this associate product marketing manager role at Google, write me a cover letter. It's gonna spit out something probably too long and ridiculous. It will make up experiences that you possibly have not had because you didn't include anything in the prompt to tell ChatGPT or whatever tool otherwise. So you want to make sure that you're giving it a prompt that makes sense and includes information. And so at least I've been doing this with Master of Marketing students this past academic year, those that are interested in using these tools. We have something here at Vanderbilt called Vanderbilt AI that you all will have access to. It is basically like ChatGPT, a bunch of different AI tools in one. You kind of have this drop-down menu. You can pick what you need. It's on a secure server. So personally, I feel a lot more confident like putting my resume in there or contact details, knowing that it's on a secure server. And thanks, Meryl, for dropping that link. You all might have access. You do have to sign in with your Vanderbilt credentials to access the system. But that's a great place to kind of drop in your resume, maybe a few job descriptions, and start playing around with it and seeing what it gives you, what you like, what you don't like. And as Jenny mentioned earlier, you really have to put your own spin, your own flavor on your cover letter. So at the end of the day, if you're using AI, make sure you're owning your final product. A lot of systems are starting to pick up when you do send in your application. They will know if you've solely used AI to write your cover letter and haven't personalized it at all. So here's an example. So one of our previous graduate assistants did a lot of work with different tools and played around with this a lot last summer. And so on the left, you see a very generic prompt, and you're going to get this very somewhat generic cover letter. On the right, we have a bit of a better prompt where the person put, where they're going to school, skills that they have, what else, like what program that they're in, so the Masters of Finance. And AI gave them something that's a little bit better. It's still going to need work, but it's definitely better than the example on the left. Some tools that you can look at aside from Vanderbilt AI. So there's Bard, of course, ChatGPT, which I'm sure most of you are using. And I may have already talked about Teal on Monday. And I know M. Marks, who sat on the kickoff call, heard about Teal as well. All of these tools are able actually to help you with cover letters. And so definitely check them out, but do not 100% rely on them. Remember, these are tools to help upskill your cover letter, help you tailor it, help you present your best self, but you just have to add your personality, your touch. You have to make it authentic to you. Any questions on any of the things that we've touched on regarding AI? Lacoste put in Gemini, the link to Gemini, so that's cool. There's so many tools out there. So as you all are, and maybe you know some stuff from your undergrad career center, as you're getting to know these different tools, let us know. We love to hear what you're working with. I had a student from the master marketing program text me early this week. I think it was called, I want to look, but it might take me a second to find it, but I think it was called VMock. If someone on my team can like look, and if that's the case, feel free to drop that in the chat. Yeah, okay, Jenny said it's VMock. All that said, she said she thought it was really cool, and she's just like, you need to check this out for the incoming class and play around with it. So a lot of tools out there, and you know, this is all even new to us, so we can definitely collaborate, learn together on some of these things. But we're definitely starting to learn some best practices for sure. All right, some common mistakes to be aware of. And I have seen this a lot in my time as a recruiter, because students are copying and pasting, they're applying late in the evening, right before the deadline. You put the wrong company name, the wrong person's name that you met or are submitting the letter to, and that can just knock you out of the process. And it's such an easy, human, simple thing to do. We all make mistakes, but this is an easy one to catch. So make sure that you are double, triple checking your cover letter, have it reviewed by a coach or have it reviewed by someone to make sure you're not having those kind of innocent mistakes that can cost you a job. If a cover letter is too long or not punchy enough, that's going to be an issue. So some things to watch out for: your supporting examples are too long. You're almost like answering an interview question within your cover letter. You definitely don't want to do that. You may be compiling too many examples. So I think I'd mentioned this a little bit earlier. If you realize like a role has like 7 skills that they want, you probably don't want to talk about 7 skills on your cover letter. You want to condense that down to 3 or 4 and be strategic about that. And I think that's going to come out in your story, as Jenny had mentioned earlier, in your interview. You want to think strategically on the themes that you can create, and having too many examples is not going to help you with that. And then we see this in cover letters a lot. Like, you know, and you feel like, hey, I'm a good communicator, I'm a good presenter, I'm a good team player, but you're not really saying why you're all those things. And you might be thinking, well, it's on my resume that I worked on this team, or I've been an athlete, I was the captain of my soccer team. We get that, but you have to kind of clarify that in your cover letter. So make sure that you are backing up your examples with true evidence on how you demonstrated a skill. We've talked about this: cookie cutter letters, any generic wording that can be a giveaway to AI, or that you're just using a template. So what company is not going to think that they're an industry leader? They all think they're industry leaders. So you have to dig deeper than that and really personalize that. Watch your grammar, and then just make sure your cover letter, the formatting is visually pleasant. So you don't want tiny font because you're trying to say so much. You put it on like number 9 instead of 12. Like, it just doesn't look good. So you just want to also think about aesthetics of your letter. Any questions on common mistakes, or anything, team, that maybe I missed that you want to add here?
Zeke, I can add one instance
Yeah.
that I made. So I was applying personally for job of undergrad. So I made one mistake because I was using one cover letter and just personalizing it a bit regarding company. So many times you use the name of company. So in one of the paragraph, I forgot to change the name of the company because I was using some other cover letter as well. The interviewer caught me, right? So that was a really bad impression. So even if you're first thing is that you have to personalize every cover letter, and even if you're using from your previous cover letter, just make sure you're changing the name of the companies and the positions so that it's not a mistake.
Yeah. Thanks, Lacoste, for sharing that. Yeah, these are so important. So when you submit, they have to be good, just like your resume. It all builds together. All right, so we want to do an activity now that we've talked so much about cover letters, actually letting you look at one. So I'm going to drop this in the chat. So give me 1 second to pull this up. And I'm going to drop it in the chat, and you should be able to download it. And it will be a Word doc, so if you feel like you want to make comments on it, you can definitely easily do that. So that should be in the chat now. So download that, and we're going to take a few minutes to, or a couple of minutes to kind of read through the letter, and then I'm going to put you into groups. And then you all will discuss, and then we'll kind of share some broader thoughts and feedback about what you all thought about the cover letters once we return. So take right now 2 minutes to read through that letter on your own, and then I'll break you out into groups. All right, I'm gonna give you like 30 more seconds to finish reading through that. And I'm creating the groups. All right, I'm gonna open the rooms for you to go into your breakout rooms. Was that easy? Tough?
There were a couple easy things to point out.
Okay, good. I will admit, I was like, should I use a real cover letter that a student has used and take off all the information like I did with the resumes earlier this week? And I was just like, no, use AI this time and try to give it a good prompt. And yeah, it was kind of a fun exercise for me to even do an AI to create this kind of critique for you all. So I think everyone is back. So I'm not going to go group by group, but any thoughts, anyone that just wants to jump off of mute and share any thoughts on what you think the applicant did well and areas of improvement and how they might improve. So I'll open it up.
I can talk. We really liked that in the third paragraph, she quantified uh, kind of their success with the startup. But the big things that stuck out were there were a few grammatical errors.
Mhm.
It was addressed to the hiring manager, but there wasn't anything specifically around who the hiring manager was. The format isn't great. It doesn't fill up the whole page. It looks like they just went in and typed it out on Word and said, all right, good enough, and sent it off. But those are the really big things that we found.
Yeah, great observations for sure. They did not use spell check to find those grammar errors. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
go ahead, please.
Our group just said that like they didn't really do much of the I like you and kind of what led them to apply to that specific role or company. So that would be something they could improve.
Absolutely, yeah. It lacks specificity in the beginning for sure.
Yeah, for us, we just kind of realized like just stating the role that you had didn't really give much context for what you were doing in that role. I think I worked supporting this team, and that means that I can work in a fast-paced environment and I can handle being client-facing. Yes, like that's true, but they had enough space to connect those two dots and to say, while working, I did this, and that led me to maybe more data, like a 20% increase in followers. We also sort of
Yeah.
realized during my small startup, during my internship at a small startup, is in the same paragraph as when I worked at Ogilvy, and
Mhm.
that that is not a small startup, and there's enough space to sort of give two full blurbs about each one.
Yeah, absolutely. So they definitely could have expanded and just better aligned the content to the job description. I know you didn't have the job description, so it can be kind of hard to tell, but you're catching all the things for sure. Uh, Maddie Kritzer, did you have anything to add? I know you had come off mute, but
I think in general, we were just talking about how they said that they had skills and they said that they
mm,
had leadership abilities, but then when it came to actually explaining that, they left it very generic. So, yeah, we just thought they could have done a better job with that.
all right, great. So not a great cover letter, right? Given what we've talked about thus far. They also could have just organized this cover letter either by skill or by experience. And so a lot of missed opportunities. They did include some quantifiable data, so that was good. Um, they didn't even close it well. Like there was no call to action really there. Like, hey, let's further discuss my qualifications or can I interview? So definitely a lot of flags, and so I'm glad you all were able to pick up on those things. All right, so let's move on here. So kind of the second exercise for cover letters is just around brain science, and we want you to start actually just creating a quick draft of your cover letter. So if you think about the creative side of your brain and the logical side of your brain, they're two different things. And I think we all on this call have been guilty of trying to creatively write something and edit it at the same time. It's a very slow way to work and write things like this. And so we wanted to just give you some time to actually be a little bit more creative and write. And so our next activity is just for you to creatively write. So I want you to think about a job that you're interested in, recall the basics of a cover letter, the basic structure. So I like you like me, let's get together. Um, you might not get to this point today, but if you can remember kind of the pitch format, you could definitely start to use that. But something that would be important is start thinking of those supporting examples that you might have. So if you want to think pretty broad, at least for this first phase, like you probably all need strong communication skills. Think about how you've done that. Have you presented somewhere? Have you written a specific thesis? Have you been like mentoring complex problems to individuals? So if anyone's been a math tutor, for example, um, think about communication skills. You can think about problem solving. You can think about collaboration. So those are some things to think about that could be important for your cover letter. So I'll give you just a few minutes, 3 minutes to kind of think through, start to make an outline, and then I'll give you a couple of minutes to write. So I'll go ahead and start that timer now. All right, if you haven't started already, go ahead and start that speed writing piece. So finish organizing any thoughts you have and take a couple of minutes to actually start writing. All right, so finish up that last thought, last sentence, last couple of words. Either show of thumbs or come off mute. Like, is that good? Do you feel like you got a little bit of a good start? See Sophia say yes. All right, awesome. Matthew, I see you said yes. All right, good. I won't make anyone share because I know we're getting close to time and I want to talk a bit about LinkedIn, but definitely keep working on your cover letter. So this is definitely just a way to get you started. You'll have these slides by the end of the week. You can also find a lot of information in 1220. So if you go to the resource library, once you log in, menu bar is on the left, resource library is near the bottom of that menu bar. And then you can either go through the folders for your specific program to find cover letters, or you can just use that search bar, type in cover letter, and you'll have a lot of resources pop up for you. All right, so let's talk a little bit about LinkedIn. First and foremost, I was very nervous that I would not have enough time to cover some of these things. And so I wanted to start off and say, we have a great foundational checklist that we've got through this partner called LinkedIn Guys. So they have a great checklist for you to go through. It's like 10 different steps, and they give you some great pointers on just how to make sure you have a foundational, nice LinkedIn profile. So if anything, if we can't cover everything today, or if you have questions, like go through this checklist first, because I think it's going to answer a lot of things for you and get your profile to a really good place. So I wanted to start with that, and thank you, Meryl, for dropping that in the chat. So crafting your profile, having a photo is going to be super important. You all probably have one now, which is great. If you don't, you will be getting an Owen headshot during orientation, and we'll encourage you to use that headshot if you like it, of course. But otherwise, you just want to make sure you have a neutral background, you're wearing professional attire. For some of my marketers, I know some of you are creative. Yes, you can get a little creative if you don't like your Owen headshot, but I do want it to be professional. Your headline is going to be important. So you're going to want something that's clear, concise, reflective of who you are, reflective of your professional aspirations. And so we have just Somewhat of a generic example, but it could work for any of those in the MSF program. That might be something that you do. Think about keywords too. Are there any words that describe you? So think about that exercise from earlier this week of what's that one word that describes you? Would that make sense to put in your header for LinkedIn? So I think if any of you have looked at my LinkedIn, you see I have like a few words. I know I have like coach, connector, that I'm empathetic. So those are things that I think describe what I do and who I am, and that worked for me. You also want a summary, and so this will be to briefly introduce yourself, what program you're in, and share your career aspirations. And again, I want you thinking about keywords. Recruiters are on LinkedIn searching for profiles based on keywords. So if you can incorporate maybe some of your relevant coursework as you start to take that, that might be a great way to get some of those keywords in built into your profile, especially if you don't have a lot of internship experience. This is a way to, I don't want to say game the system, but just include what you're learning so you pop up on recruiters' radar when they're doing a search. And if you need any help with the summary, obviously ask your coach. And then again, I'm a huge proponent of like, how can we use AI? We're all going to need to use it. We need to know how to use it. We need to know how to use it ethically. I think AI can also help with this. Any questions on crafting your profile? Like that piece of it. All right. So let's kind of continue talking about some of the other sections of LinkedIn. So your education, hopefully this is pretty straightforward. You want to list the institutions that you have attended. You can list certificate programs there if you have taken any certificate programs. As you get into your time at Owen, any extracurricular clubs that you join, you'll want to put there. Any specific projects that, again, are giving you keywords or giving you a good story that you can include in an interview or a piece of your cover letter. Great place to highlight things like that. And so for like my Master of Marketing students, you will be participating in Brand Week in the fall. Including Brand Week in your education section under Vanderbilt is a great place to put that experience. For any professional experience that you have, you will want to detail internships, part-time jobs if you feel like they are relevant to what you want to do next. You can use the bullets from your resume because I'm always thinking about this around like keywords, like what keywords are you providing? So if you have a lot of those on your resume, you want to use the bullets, you can do that. If you want to tell more of a story on your LinkedIn profile, I think that's what I've done. If anyone wants to look at my profile, then a little bit more of like a summary style for my LinkedIn. Just make sure you're utilizing keywords. Under skills and endorsements, you actually can choose your own endorsements. So people will endorse you for things, and it can be a number of things. Like you will see like cooking on there, and you may be a good cook, and you may want to show that, and that's awesome. But you only do have so many endorsements that you can list on LinkedIn. So as you're thinking about your next career move, choose endorsements that you want that again give you those specific keywords that might be important in your field. That's what you'll want to add there. And then ask your friends to endorse you, your classmates, I should say. What else? So sorry, I'm going through this quickly, but you do have that checklist. So networking and personal branding. So adding connections is going to be important. Start to add the people that you're meeting, like today on these summer prep series calls. Add your classmates as you get to know them, your professors, the folks here on the coaching team. Everyone is fair game. Add them because you don't know if they can serve as a resource later. You also want to join specific groups. So for like my Master Marketing students, as I meet you, I'm going to have you join the MMark alumni group a little bit early, but that's okay because I just want you to have access to those potential contacts. You also want to share content if it makes sense for you. So that could be resharing an article. It could be your own original thought. It could be sharing a picture from a career activity that you did, a picture from class. So start thinking about those things and how you might create your personal brand for your LinkedIn if you haven't done so already. All right, so next steps, keep working on a draft of your cover letter, review the LinkedIn guys profile checklist that we shared. It's also in 1220. And then we have our next sessions next week on Monday and Thursday. So a little bit of a change. Next week, Wednesday is Juneteenth, a holiday. So Vanderbilt will actually be closed that day. So our second session next week is going to be on Thursday morning, both times at 9 a.m. Central Daylight Savings Time. So with that, we are done. So if you need to drop off for a 10 o'clock, please do so. If you have any lingering questions and want to chat, I can hang out for a couple of minutes. Otherwise, thank you so much. Great to see you all again.